Welcome back to the ongoing commentary track for C for Chaos. This is writer, director, producer, sometimes stand-in, sometimes extra, JT McRoberts. This is episode 9, C for Chaos, Art Gets Busted. As always, we start with this opening sequence introduction, which evolved quite a bit over the years. We always wanted this introduction in the film version of the series, and it went through quite a few changes as Brent experimented with what it could look like. And then finally, when Brent decided to do this as a web series, he settled on this particular look, and it just looks absolutely fantastic. So just couldn't be any more pleased with how that came out, especially when you couple it with the great narration by Martin Bowes there. And there you see me as extra walking through at my heaviest too. God, that's painful to see that. There's my good friend Brian Palmer from my jiu-jitsu school, total local maniac, and he looks so straight-laced. We thought he'd make the perfect kind of cop detective looking guy, so we asked him to come in and do this part, and he did a good job. He came in, he knew his lines, and had fun for the day. The idea here is that Art is like the comic drug supplier for the entire town. He's hooking everybody up with rare comics and taking advantage of it all. Here you have Art bartering with comic books throughout the town. The idea is he's using his abilities as the comic shop pimp to get what he needs. So he goes to check on Emma at the police station. The idea behind the sequence was to try to show characters like you would normally see in a slasher film, Halloween, Friday the 13th, what have you. Try to show them actually reacting to the loss of one of their friends, because in a lot of these films, like Scream, for instance, one of their friends always gets killed in the opening of the film, and everybody else is kind of like, oh, well, forget that hoe, let's party! So, like most things in C for Chaos, this was an attempt to subvert those tropes, to subvert, I don't know, just the fact that these emotional repercussions weren't being addressed for the most part in slasher films. And this is another attempt to kind of build some of that sexual tension between Art and Emma. And here you see the police detective, played by Bob Wickline, who's actually my uncle, and he really just grabbed a hold of this role and had a lot of fun with it. And he has some of the most fun dialogue in the whole series. Now, Bob's not a film actor, but he is a stage actor, so he was really good at taking direction, and he just had a lot of fun with this.
I'm sorry, sir. I shouldn't have came back here.
Judge, jury, executioner. That's mine.
We're filming here in a doctor's office after hours, so the idea was that it was supposed to look like the interior of a police station, and to a certain extent, I think we pulled it off. It has that kind of nondescript look. Again, the shot on video look just kind of kills this because of the fluorescent lights. Just gives everything that kind of yellowish green hue, which is just so painful to look at. Some of these performances were just so good that it's just a shame to that I wasn't able to support them from a technical aspect, and we put so much work into these things. But at least the work is being seen now on YouTube, and people can, they can kind of pick and choose some of their favorite sequences. There you see the actual business card for the Comics Conspiracy, which was the name of the comic shop, the Comic Conspiracy. It seems like that would have been the made-up name for the shop because of the conspiratorial attitude of Kilroy, who works there. But that was always the name of the comic shop. So we just worked it in, and that was the actual name of the shop. Make love to that wall punk. I think that was actually an homage, maybe even a direct rip-off of something Kramer said in an episode of Seinfeld. I probably should have changed that particular dialogue up a little bit. Now here the questioning is supposed to reveal some more of the details of the death of Bianca. The detective says, "Do you believe in vampires?" Because he thinks it's some kind of cult or what have you that was trying to make it look like a vampire. You know, people going around drinking blood, that kind of stuff.
Yes, sir. I didn't do anything wrong.
This scene was another one that was a lot of fun to film because some of the dialogue scenes are so nutty. The dialogue lines are so nutty. It's just so over the top. It's very funny. But of course, Art's friends with Pete, so Pete's like, "You can go, just get out of here." Bad Girls USA #1. I had the most fun just making up nonsensical titles, nonsensical comic book titles, to kind of reflect the tastes of the time. So Bad Girls USA #1 was one. If anybody out there wants to buy that title from me, feel free to get in touch with me. Now this sequence, I really like this cut to. Is almost cinematic in a way. It took a while for us to kind of find our filmmaking legs and get beyond our limitations and just try to make something with some nuance to it. And I just really like this whole little sequence. If Art's starting to draw, here we see his frustration. And I always... My intention is that frustrated artists would identify with this, that they would understand this feeling of wanting to create something new and unique, and simultaneously being frustrated with not being able to come up with something they're satisfied with, or something that they felt like really expressed what they were trying to say. And Art definitely has that in spades. But with Art, I had to start the character low in the script. So he's at a low point in his relationships. He's at a low point in his artistic endeavors. And we had to start him there to build him up. And really, this fantastic song by Attrition here is what makes this sequence. I'm glad that we were able to give it a little bit of some decent visuals to play off of. Again, people might get bored by all this character building, but the idea is you've got to make these characters real. And now here we jump into the story within the story. There's just so many layers to this, and each one is supposed to reflect the others. I mean, we're so ambitious. Whether it works or not, I don't know. You know, ultimately the fans will have to be the judge. For the most part, they all say thumbs down, but who cares? This sequence was a lot of fun. I had overwritten this sequence. We actually had to film it before I had a chance to really get the script where I wanted it to be, because we were losing an actor, Ronnie Cruz, who was moving to New York. So we had to bump this scene forward several months, and I had to kind of write the script overnight, and I overwrote it. So there was dialogue throughout this whole sequence, but after we filmed it and I put it together, I just thought, oh man, it's just too much. This dialogue is just super hokey. So we cut it together and then put narration over it, and I think that it really helps deliver the ominous tone that we were looking for. I like that kind of little dissolve there, and we have the symbolism of the circles of the rain, the droplets of rain hitting the water, and then Art walking out onto the water. The water always represents the subconscious, the unconscious self. And here he's flashing back and forth to some of the other things that he's seen. and experienced, and what he has going on inside, what's driving him, he doesn't know. He wakes up and comes out into his living room. He's not sure why he can't sleep, what it is that's driving him, troubling him. But he suddenly finds himself again face to face with the MacGuffin of this story, though he does not know it is MacGuffin. The idea was that we would keep it kind of in the classical Hitchcock vein of the main character not really knowing what was going on. He just kind of finds himself in the possession of a MacGuffin and then has to kind of respond to everything around him. Now, I tried to make the character of Art as proactive as possible, which was difficult because he had to start at low points emotionally in order to have a proper arc of heroic transformation. And again, this was another thing I took a lot of flack for behind the scenes because people thought his character was too whiny, and I found myself constantly having to try to explain, we want him to grow and develop, so he's got to start somewhere. And there he opens it up, and we see this ominous glow coming from the box. So there you go. And here we have the lovely Mutitia. Remember to go buy a C for Chaos t-shirt if you dig this. Support some independent filmmakers, and hopefully we'll keep making some more. We'll see you next time. Thanks.
Your comments and interest are essential in motivating us to keep this web series coming out every 2 weeks.